Innovation and Technology Bureau finally up and running. A Zhang warning on the impact of higher interest rates. And a rescue mission underway at a luxury hotel in Mali where at least 3 are dead. Good evening. The new Innovation and Technology Bureau was formally set up today, and Nicholas Yang was appointed secretary. Yang says Hong Kong has a lot of catching up to do, but he's confident his team can produce results. Winnie Wong has more.
Flanked by Chief Executive Leung Chen-ying, Nicholas Yang was today sworn in as the first minister of the Innovation and Technology Bureau. And he's already got a plan set out in front of him, highlighting 9 items as he met the media. These include making efforts to collaborate with the world's top science and research institutes, encourage the private sector to invest in innovation and technology, turn Hong Kong into a connected Wi-Fi city, and promote the use of innovation and technology to tackle social issues, such as helping the poor and elderly. But he said there's no specific timeline yet.
And once you set a priority, then we can focus our effort to accomplish what we want to do. I think this is the whole entire purpose of setting up a bureau, because with a clear, holistic, and also macro policy, we can have consensus in the key item and then push ahead.
The government has already announced former Commissioner for Labor Chek Wing-hing will become the Bureau's permanent secretary. The undersecretary and political assistant will be named later. The government said existing departments that are already dealing with innovation and technology will be absorbed into this new bureau. In other words, we're about to see a major reshuffle in administration. Right now, the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, led by Greg So, has 2 branches. One is the Communications and Technology branch. Under that, the Innovation and Technology Commission, as well as the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer, will now come under the new bureau. Also starting today, the Communications and Technology Branch will be renamed the Communications and Creative Industries Branch and remains as part of the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau. The Communications and Creative Industries Branch will continue to deal with broadcasting, telecommunications, and the development of creative industries. Winnie Wong, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Zhang has expressed concerns about the impact of an impending U.S. interest rate hike on Hong Kong. Rani Samtani has that story.
Will they or won't they? Over the past few months, there's been a lot of speculation about whether and when the U.S. Federal Reserve will raise interest rates. An American rate hike will drive up interest rates here in Hong Kong because of the local currency's peg to the greenback. Financial Secretary John Zhang, who returned to Hong Kong this morning after attending the G20 summit in Turkey and a visit to Romania, pointed out that the Fed is widely expected to raise rates next month. Zhang believes Hong Kong is prepared for the rate hike, but that the move will still have an impact on the property market. Zhang said it always depends on striking a balance between supply and demand. He noted that over the next few years, supply will increase, but the property market and overall economy will be affected by rising interest rates and the current global economic environment. Meanwhile, Zhang praised the performance of the Hong Kong football team in Tuesday's World Cup qualifier against China, which ended in a goalless draw. He said it was a very exciting game and that the Hong Kong people are very satisfied with the result. Zhang has posted a picture on his social networking page of him watching the big game on a tablet computer while he was in Romania. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Islamic extremists armed with assault rifles and throwing grenades stormed the Radisson Blu Hotel in Mali's capital this morning, killing at least 3 people. The group took 170 people hostage, including 10 Chinese nationals. The Malian army spokesman said special forces reacted quickly, entering the hotel and freeing some hostages floor by floor. It's reported that 80 people in the hotel have been freed. One guest earlier reported that the attackers instructed him to recite verses from the Quran before they let him leave the hotel. It was not immediately clear which Muslim extremist group might be behind the attack. A handful of jihadi groups seized the northern part of Mali, a former French colony, in 2012. They were ousted by a French military intervention. France's lower house of parliament has overwhelmingly voted to extend the country's state of emergency for 3 months after last week's terror attacks that killed 130 people in Paris. This after authorities said the architect of the rampage was killed in a police raid in the suburb of Saint-Denis 2 days ago. Police now say 3 people were killed in that raid. Alan Buckner reports.
Investigators initially thought 27-year-old Abdelhamid Abaoud was in Syria, where he plotted the attacks. It turns out the Belgian-Moroccan extremist was right in front of their noses, a 15-minute walk from the Stade de France stadium, where 3 suicide bombers blew themselves up last Friday.
Abdelhamid Abaoud.
French Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve said the situation changed Monday when France received a tip from a non-European country that Abaoud had slipped into Europe through Greece. Jean-Michel Fauvergue, the head of the Special Weapons and Tactics team, said a mobile phone discarded during the attacks led them to the suspects, and phone taps and surveillance led them to the Saint-Denis apartment. He said they were going to blow open the front door and expected a quick operation, but, as he put it, the stupid door didn't open. The element of surprise was gone. That led to a 7-hour standoff, including a 1-hour continuous exchange of gunfire, during which police estimate they fired 5,000 rounds of ammunition. Abaoud and a female suicide bomber were killed in the raid, and 8 people were arrested. Forensics experts are trying to determine the identity of the third body found. They're still hunting for Salah Abdeslam of Belgium, who authorities say was involved in the Paris attacks. Meanwhile, Islamic State, the militant group that claimed responsibility for the carnage, issued a video threatening the White House with suicide bombings and vowing to conduct more attacks. The latest threat comes a day after the group released a video of New York City, superimposed by a man wearing a bomb vest, suggesting it was also a target. American officials have said there's no credible threat of a Paris-style attack in the U.S. French President François Hollande is scheduled to travel to Washington and Moscow next week to push for a stronger international coalition to battle Islamic State. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
Knowing one of the assailants in the Paris attacks was a Syrian refugee has pushed the U.S. House of Representatives to approve a bill that makes it harder for Syrian refugees to settle in America. But as Sonia Otero reports, the White House slammed the vote.
The Paris attacks fueled a debate on U.S. soil, one that questioned whether America's vetting process is capable of weeding out possible terrorists among refugees hailing from countries like Syria and Iraq.
This bill puts a pause on our refugee program until we are certain that nobody being allowed in possesses a threat to the American people.
Most Republicans were already opposed to President Barack Obama's decision to give 10,000 Syrians refuge in America. Saying it's better to be safe than sorry, the measure overwhelmingly passed in a vote of 289 versus 137. Some Democrats cried foul.
But defeating terrorism should not mean slamming the door in the faces of those who are fleeing the terrorists. That is why I am appalled by the actions of this House.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump went even further. He said he would implement a system to track Muslims in the country.
But right now, beyond database, I mean, we should have a lot of systems. And today you can do it. But right now we have to have a border, we have to have strength, we have to have a wall.
Another presidential contender, Jeb Bush, backs the bill passed by the House.
Because unlike other refugees that have come, you have the possibility, at least, of terrorists organizing to disrupt our way of life and to attack us and to kill people that could be